Oh, that's my stage name.
Well, work lecture. No. Fine. Whose is this? All right. Okay. I'm nervous. It's different when you're like role playing. Oh, there I am on the screen. Okay, let me get into character. Let me be myself. So thank you again for being here today and for being a part of this. Vanessa's going to proctor next week's class too, because I have a PhD class to attend. So shall we proctor your class next week? We'll talk about that more later. Yeah, and then I'll be back, and then we have Dr. Simon on the March 3rd. She'll be really cool. Okay. Oh, let me get my pen. All right, guys, here we go. What are we going to call you? Just Vanessa? Yeah. Okay, we're just going to call her Vanessa. Should we pass the mic? Yeah. Okay, we'll figure it out. Sorry. Okay, so hi Vanessa, thank you for coming in today. And my name's Allison Maxwell. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here at the faculty practice. And basically, I'm one of the newer therapists on staff at the BHI, and I understand that you preferred a female counselor. So I'm really glad we were able to meet and make this appointment possible, make it happen. And I really kind of just like to start off my sessions without too much of an agenda. I really kind of like to hear from your perspective what brings you in today, and I'm sure there's a whole lot that's been going on in your life, and I really like to leave the floor open to you telling me what brings you in.
Well, I've been struggling with going on trips, with traveling, and every time I attempt to go on a trip, I sort of panic and end up not taking the trip. And so I'm trying to figure out what is it that's preventing me from going. So I've had opportunities to go on so many different trips with people, with relatives, with good friends, and I feel like I'm constantly missing out because there's a panic that comes over me, but only when I'm going to travel. I don't have anxiety, I don't struggle with panic attacks outside of that, but anytime I go to travel, something is triggered inside of me and I can't figure out what it is.
So could you tell me a little bit more about the anxiety you feel surrounding travel, how long has it been going on for, and can you just say a little bit more about the sensations you have or the thoughts that are going through your mind when you think about travel?
So I usually get really excited for the trips, and there's not really any concern, and then it usually starts kind of the night before. When I think about going on the trip, then kind of get the heart palpitations and just really nervous, and I think about all of the people I'm not going to see and being away from home. And then I usually can get through the night, and then it usually is when I'm getting on the plane or getting into the car or wherever it is to go on the trip, then I panic and I feel like I can't breathe, and then I just get really emotional, and then I decide not to go on the trip. And then I'm fine.
So once you've decided you're not taking the trip, the anxiety subsides.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then once the trip is canceled and people go and they're on their trip, what kind of feelings are you left with after that?
I usually feel relief for at least the first day, and okay, I'm in my normal routine, everything's okay. Then typically when the people I'm supposed to go away with come home and I realize how much I missed out on, and then it's regret of why does this happen? Why can't I be part of this?
So it leaves you feeling kind of like maybe sad or disappointed or embarrassed even. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, and how long has this been going on for?
It first started when I was about 18, so it's been going on for about 8 years, and I never had any trouble before then, no issues.
And so tell me what was going on in your life around the time 18? Was there anything significant that sticks with you or comes up for you when you think about why it started suddenly becoming an issue? Or I don't know, I'll let you tell me.
No, not particularly, and I've kind of gone back on this on my own, trying to figure out if there was something that triggered it at that time. And there wasn't anything specific that happened around that time that I can think of. Nothing traumatic, nobody died, nobody left, all of the things, and nothing to kind of waver my security, so to speak. So I've kind of been left with, okay, why at 18, why not before, and then why is it now still continuing? And I go through this cycle of, you know, you're fine, you just need to get over this, you need to go on the trip and it'll be fine, and kind of doing the, you know, flooding approach of go and just get over it and see that everything's fine, but I just can't build up the courage, I guess, to get that far.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that with me. Some of the things I like to do also when I'm meeting someone for the first time is to kind of go back in time a little bit and get some history, maybe things that you hadn't thought about in a long time or even, you know, have brought up or talked about in a long time. But if you wouldn't mind, if you could share with me what your childhood was like, and just if you could sum it up in so many words. Was it a good childhood? Was it bad? What was the relationship like with your parents? What are some of your earliest important memories? Maybe that will, yeah.
Well, I grew up with an alcoholic father, so he was kind of not really involved, pretty verbally aggressive towards myself, my siblings, and my mom. And for the most part, though, it was a normal childhood as far as, you know, we played in sports and, you know, we did Girl Scouts and extracurricular activities and went on family vacations and, you know, did all of those things. And then when I was probably in about junior high, my mom developed depression. And so at the time I had a significantly younger sister. And so it was being left to kind of take responsibility for her because of my mom going through depression, my dad being an alcoholic. And so then that kind of changed the whole course of everything around junior high time.
Okay.
And high school was pretty normal as far as getting used to the new normal, I guess. And then it was kind of fun.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that with me. You told me that your dad was a verbally aggressive alcoholic. How did that affect your home environment? Or tell me a little bit more about what that felt like for you as a child, having your dad be that way, or I don't know, tell me about that experience a little more.
Okay. So my sister obviously was too little to kind of be involved in that, so nothing was ever geared towards her. And then my mom is a very sensitive person, so it was a lot about not making her upset, not making her more depressed. So my older brother and myself kind of got the brunt of that. And so it was not having things done that wasn't really our responsibility. You know, our younger sibling being grumpy and us not taking care of her right, like those kind of things. And so we just kind of got stuck, I guess, doing a lot of things that we shouldn't have really had to do just because we kind of had to take responsibility for things that weren't on us. And so I think for myself, I learned to just kind of shut down. And so it was, I'm not going to allow what he says or what he does to affect me. So it's becoming that kind of almost like a wall, where it doesn't matter what you say or do, it's not going to affect me, kind of thing. And so I think that was a defense that I used for a long time, just trying to figure out, okay, how do I survive through that period?
Thanks for sharing that. Sounds like you were in charge of a lot of things from a very young age. I forget, are you the oldest or?
I'm the middle.
You're the middle, and so you had an older brother or a younger sibling?
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds like you and your brother were taking kind of the brunt, as you said in your own words, taking the brunt of kind of maybe helping the family along with making up for your dad's tension that he created and your mom's depression, and you guys were really sort of the ones that, well, in clinical terms, I don't know what you do for a living yet, but we call that parentification. And it sounds like you kind of took on these adult roles as a child and had to make sure things were okay, had to make sure mom was okay, had to make sure everything was taken care of, the siblings were fed, things were cleaned. And that's a lot of pressure for someone, who's a child. And oftentimes, when people are raised in alcoholic homes, there's a lot of family dynamics that are very toxic, but also unspoken. And it's not uncommon for someone who grew up with an alcoholic parent to develop adult anxiety and phobias because of the childhood that you really weren't able to fully experience is robbed of you, and then here you are in an adult life trying to figure things out when you might still feel very much like a child inside. You're needing your parents, but they're not there, and they really weren't there in the way you need them to be. I don't know if that sounds like it resonates with you, but it's kind of what I'm hearing you say, that you were very much put in an adult role at a very young age.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And what would you say about your relationship with your parents now, with your dad? We'll start with him.
I would say I think the relationship with my dad is good now. That I'm not expecting really anything from him, so it's kind of like there's no disappointments there. And then there's, establishing boundaries was key, not only with him, but with my mom, in my mom understanding I can't take care of her and it's not my role. And so being able to set those boundaries with them and remove myself when I didn't want to be part of it anymore, I would say has made things tolerable.
Okay. Can you say a little bit more about how you feel towards your dad now? Or what would you like to say to him, if you could say anything?
Let me think about that. I don't know, I guess gaining an understanding of what caused him to be the way that he is. Not knowing a lot of background about him, so to speak, like, what his upbringing was like, that kind of thing. I think it would be interesting to know, okay, what was your childhood like that would make you become this person?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you it sounds like you're wanting more of an explanation from your dad as to, why were you like this when you were kids? Why why did you make my childhood so difficult? What was it about your past, or what was going on with you? That's understandable. It's understandable to want to know those answers, and sometimes we don't get those answers. And I think part of the role of coming to counseling or therapy, however you want to call it, is to decide what we really want to do with our painful, childhood memories or early experiences, and how we want to really process them and deal with them, and what are we going to do about it today? Right now, how old are you now?
25.
Okay, so you're 25. You're not living with your parents anymore, so you are autonomous, and you are able to make the changes that you want to make, and you're not in that environment anymore, even though some of the dynamics that were in your childhood home are still kind of with you now, and we can talk about that a little bit more. I know it may not seem like how is it connected, but we'll talk about it a little more. I'm curious to know about your relationship with your mom, and if your parents are still together, or where things kind of fallen now after you left home.
My parents are still together, and they went through kind of an extensive healing period of their own, and so they're actually in a really good place now. And so my relationship with my mom, I would say it's complicated. She is the type of mom who would do anything, I know, for her kids, but at the same time she seems very needy. So trying to kind of navigate that and not wanting to always feel like what I give isn't enough.
Mm-hmm. So when you say she's needy, how does that translate in your life?
Time.
Time?
Yeah.
So she wants lots of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And can you give me an example of what that means? Like, does she call you? Does she demand that you come over? Or what's that like for you?
I think if she knows I have a lot of free time and I'm choosing to spend it with other people, then there's comments about how I have time for other people but not for her. Then when I come over, it's, oh, you're only here for an hour, just, those kind of things.
Okay. Thank you. So it sounds like, that your mom is maybe not on purpose, but making you feel guilty about having your life, having an adult life separate from hers. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And if you can imagine being a mother someday and having a girl, Vanessa Jr., we'll call her, how would you want your young daughter to feel about her life as a 25-year-old? Would you want her to feel the way you feel about your mom? Would you say the things your mom's saying? If your daughter said she was busy and couldn't come visit you. I guess I'm wanting you to think about what would you say to a girl your age who had a mother like yours?
I guess I would encourage, at 25, I would assume time management isn't the greatest depending on, someone's stage of life. But I guess more intentional time than just kind of even doing the little visits here and there. Maybe intentional time would be more satisfying. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that I would hope that their view of me wouldn't be what my view of my mom is.
Mm-hmm. Do you think your mom is creating a sense in you that you're responsible for her happiness? Or that she needs, maybe not you solely, but her children play a role in her happiness, and you have to do things for her to keep her happy? tell me if that resonates with you or not. Or what I'm trying to say is, yeah, is your mom looking to you for her own fulfillment?
Yeah, I think maybe in a sense, yes. I think not intentionally. I think it's that she's 100% for her kids. And so I think she's satisfied with just, I guess she's not satisfied with just what we give, but she is happy with just spending time with us, doing things like that. Everything is centered around her kids. So I guess in that sense, yes. I think if I told her that she was making me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with her, it would probably hurt her feelings.
But would it be true?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that knowing this about the dynamics you have with your mom and your dad, and looking back on your early experiences, I mean, it could come into play. I'm thinking it could come into play with your current anxiety about taking travels and being away from home. Because really what the theme that I'm hearing is you want to go on the travels, you want to be with your friends, you want to have the courage to do these things that for many people it's like no big deal. I'm going on a trip, they don't even blink. Getting on a plane, getting on a train, they're gone, they're fine. But for you, it's I think going on a trip would be a big feat for you in many ways, because this is something that you've struggled with, and I'm not so sure it's about the trip in and of itself as it is leaving this, comfort zone that you have, and possibly the duties that you feel you need to be present for your family. So I don't know, when I say that, what comes up for you?
That makes sense. Okay, little background. Sorry, I totally forgot this, and this is like key. I'm just trying to remember it back because this was a few years ago that I worked with someone who struggled with this. It was during her, what time? I think it was like freshman year of high school. Mom and younger sister went to a domestic violence shelter. And so when her and her younger brother came home, or older brother came home from school, mom and younger sister were gone for like 6 months. So that was a major factor during that time.
Okay.
So I forgot that part.
So that happened to you?
Yes, to me. Sorry.
So tell us about that, Vanessa.
Okay. So
we'll go back to the other question.
When I was a freshman in high school, I came home from school one day with my brother, and there was a note from my mom, and her and my younger sister had gone to a domestic violence shelter because my mom was fearful of my dad, that he was just getting too angry, and so so we didn't have contact with her probably for at least a few weeks, and then we'd kind of get random contact with her for like 6 months, and then after that she would move home for like a month, and then she would decide she didn't want to live there, so she would move in with family members, then she would move back, and that was probably consistent for like 2 years.
Okay, so between what ages were this happening for you?
14 and 16.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. That is important to know. And as we talk, in our sessions together, if things come up for you and you feel like talking about it, bring it up. I really see therapy as a more collaborative effort. I'm here to listen and to be present and to guide the process, but I really count on my clients to bring the content. You get to decide what's important for you to talk about and what matters and what kind of content you'd like to bring up. I don't really like to tell people what to do. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to guide the process and help you make sense of your story, really, and of the things that are troubling you. So that really does kind of help us paint a clearer picture, too, of what that must have been like for you as a child. And I want to go back to that, but I also I want to know what your thoughts were again on how leaving town could kind of represent abandoning, or there's like a sense that I feel like you'd be abandoning something, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, and I'll let you talk.
I think that was my initial thought, is kind of the missing out. Like, if I'm gone, then what is home going to be like when I'm not here? Fear of just, not only fear of missing out, but I think I'm comfortable with routine and keeping things exactly like as they are every day almost, where it's like, if I miss a day of class, it throws off my whole week because my schedule's different and it's not what I'm expecting. So I don't know what to expect, so that kind of freaks me out. But I think it could also be, if I leave, what if something happens and I'm not here, or, something happens to someone important, or I get sick, or, all of these different things. I think I kind of go into those automatic negative thoughts of, what can happen within like 30 seconds, or it's just you're flooded with all of these different thoughts. And so, going through that as well, just kind of instills a panic. It's all I'm thinking are the negative things associated with the trip rather than all the good things.
And historically, you were the one who made things better in your family. You took care of Mom, you mediated between her and your dad, you did all this stuff that if you were gone, what would happen? So, in your mind, what's the worst case scenario? Let's say you go on a work trip to San Francisco for the weekend. In your mind, where does it go? Where's the worst case scenario if you actually leave and go?
So I think that my fear is not being able to come back. So I don't know if it's the lack of control. So if I get on a plane to fly to whatever city, then something happens, then I can't just be there. So it's like a fear of, and so I guess it's thinking about so say I can't get there or be there, what's the worst thing that could happen? I don't know, because I don't know what exactly I'm trying to get back to. So, so that's an interesting thought.
So, again, I think we can trace it back to some of the feelings you might have had in childhood, because when you're a kid and you're dealing with these adult issues, when your parents, no parent is perfect, but your parents put you in an adult position to take care of things that children shouldn't have to feel burdened to take care of. And when you're a kid, you don't know how to navigate the world. You don't know how to figure things out. And so you're trying to deal with these adult issues with childlike capacities. And that can instill, just terror or a sense of being out of control. And you need your parents to survive when you're a kid. And if my parents aren't okay, then I'm not going to be okay, is probably what goes on, or what could have gone on in your mind. So in order to keep your survival going, you kind of had to keep your family going. And, consciously you're not aware of that as a child, but that's the position they put you in. And so what I'm seeing here is kind of a mimicking, but in an adult realm. If I can't be there to fix things or to be there to make sure things are okay, I'm not going to be okay. And tell me if that sounds like something that makes sense for you, or...
Yeah, I guess I've never thought of it in that way. So that makes sense, because I feel that it is very much a control issue. And I mean, pretty big enough issue to prevent me from doing things that I actually want to do. So.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, oftentimes when children are parentified or are made to feel responsible for the well-being of their family, adult anxieties develop because of that sensation, because you're trying to, in a sense, fight for your survival, yet you aren't a child anymore, you're adult, you are competent, you got a job, you're taking care of yourself, but you still have those feelings of, oh my gosh, if I don't take care of things, everything will fall apart and I will not be okay. I will fall apart. And maybe at the core of it, I will be, some people talk about like a deep-seated fear of death or annihilation or just everything falling apart, of losing control. And what does that really look like at the core is different for everybody. But also in a first session, I like to ask a few other questions after we go into the childhood. If you could tell me a little bit now just about some basic facts about you. Are you married now? What are your relationships like? Where are you working?
I am engaged to be married next summer, for this coming summer. I am graduating with my bachelor's in clinical psychology, and I am living in Irvine, and I am working for a nonprofit organization out there, part-time while I finish school, and then I will go on to grad school.
Okay. So it sounds like you've done really well for yourself. You're able to navigate things and figure out things in the adult realm. But I'm getting the sense that even though you make these strides and you make these steps, that there's still that kind of scared little girl inside that needs to be there for your mom and dad. That really you need to be there for them, or things are not going to be okay. And it's kind of perpetuated, the notion that you need to be there for them by your mom asking, verbally requesting that you make time for her, that you carve out time in your schedule for her, and that her whole sense of being is based off of her children. And of course you're gonna, feel guilty about that, because that's what you were kind of told how you should feel. I'm wondering what that brings up for you when I mention your mom in that way, as creating a sense of guilt in you or needing you to feel fulfilled, and kind of affirming some of your worst fears that you do need to be there for them.
I think that I've realized that the guilt is there, and so I think I kind of avoid spending time with her simply so I don't have to feel that. And I think even sometimes kind of picking fights so that then if she's mad at me, then I don't have to think about it for a while. Mm-hmm. So I think I just kind of choose to not think about it, just kind of leave it as it is what it is kind of thing.
Okay. So it's easier for her to be mad at you and just have it be that way than to think that she's just waiting at home for you to call and you're ignoring her and feeling guilty about that. I know that makes sense. So tell me a little bit about your support system. Who's your main support in life?
I have a really good group of friends that I've had for probably a good portion of my life, probably high school on. And then I have my fiance, and his family is actually really amazing. And then I have extended family too that are pretty great. And then I'm very involved in a church, and so I kind of have a church community as well.
That's great. I'm just going to go through my form here. Some of the first session housekeeping, I guess. Whoop. Do you have any involvement with the legal system, jail time, anything like that? Didn't think so. And you said your highest level education is a bachelor's degree, almost in clinical psychology. Any history of drug or alcohol use or abuse?
Not really. Tried different things through high school, but never really did it more than once.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about your high school experience. We talked about some of your younger childhood, but what was high school like for you?
High school was awesome. So I think that I probably kind of spent more time at school. So I was very involved in different extracurricular activities so that I could spend as much time as I could there. But I loved my friends, loved my teachers, loved my youth group. So good years.
Good. Good. Sounds like you kind of created a sense of meaning or belonging within your high school group and the things that you did during that time, and really channeled maybe some of the difficulties that were going on at home into doing good things and being busy, and that's good. Any history of suicidal thoughts, attempts, anything like that? Any history of wanting to hurt other people or anything crazy like that? I would not normally say that. Any physical, any medical conditions that would impact our treatment or cause you to fall ill or anything like that? Okay. Are you taking any medication right now at all? So any antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications?
No.
Any over-the-counter stuff or prescriptions for anything at all?
No.
Okay. And have you ever been on an antidepressant or psychotropic? No? Okay. And how are you sleeping? How's your appetite? Those kind of things?
Well, considering I'm in my last year of my bachelor's, my sleeping and eating is pretty poor.
How much sleep are you getting?
Probably about 5 hours.
Okay. And then, do you notice any change in your appetite?
No, I
Or
pretty
it's
much
just-
eat really poorly.
Okay.
Like, as far as not healthy.
But that's nothing new.
No.
That's within the realm of normal. No major changes in your sleeping or eating habits, just typical.
Well, only if I know if I'm going to go on a trip.
Okay, and then if you go on a trip, what happens?
Then I don't sleep very well and I lose my appetite for just the period of time until either I decide not to go on the trip or I attempt to go on the trip and it doesn't work out.
Okay. So when was the last time you were able to go on a trip, do it? What was that like for you? How long ago was that?
About 8 years ago.
Okay.
That was the last successful trip. I went to see family in the East Coast, I believe. And it was fine. It was a great trip. And then since then, every other trip I just can't do it. And then I just stopped planning trips. Probably about 3 years ago, I just decided I'm just not going to put myself through it, so I'm going to stop. But I'm getting married, so I need to go on a trip for my honeymoon.
Okay. So you've managed to avoid these troublesome trips for 8 years now. Does your fiance know how you feel about going away on a honeymoon, and how has this come up between you guys?
He's aware, and he's really accommodating. So I think it's like, oh, okay, well, we can go somewhere local, just kind of not making a big deal. But
And how do you feel about that, staying local for your honeymoon?
I really want to take a big trip, and I don't want it to be something I regret later.
Okay. And when would this honeymoon, or when's this coming up?
July.
In July, so you have about 6 months to think about it. And prepare, I guess. So you've shared a lot with me today just about your childhood and about things going on in your life, and thank you for sharing all of that with me. I'm wondering if this feels like a good relationship, if you feel comfortable talking to me, and if you think that this is something you want to continue doing after today.
Yeah, I think it was good to kind of think out loud, I guess you could say.
That's good. That's what we're here to do. So when you go on for the next week, I want you to think about some of the things we talked about today and really try to put it together in terms of how the things you were told as a child and even the unspoken messages from your parents that that they were not okay without you, that you needed to help them fix things, whatever that may be, keep the family going. And how that's really translated to your thoughts and actions now as an adult, as a 25-year-old woman that's trying to take trips and just be engaged in adult life. And really, where do you think would be useful to focus on in treatment in terms of thinking about your past and about how you'd like to proceed with treatment? Let me know what you think about that.
I'm not sure. I think that there's probably all different kinds of things that come from just, I guess, the different things I've struggled with my parents. I feel like there's probably a deeper, obviously there's kind of a root to my problem that I would like to get through to figure out and really discover, okay, what exactly is triggering the anxiety? Because I know that there are little things, but there's got to be something that every time this thought comes up or something before I start to panic or feel this, thing that makes me fearful to leave.
Well, I think we could be onto something with the idea that leaving your comfort zone, leaving your routine, leaving the life that you've kind of created that's very structured and predictable, because your childhood was not structured and predictable. Your dad, I'm sure, was unpredictable. Being an alcoholic, their moods can change, things can be chaotic. Your mom felt so uncomfortable to the point that she left home. So you had this very kind of unsteady childhood that it would make sense now that you would want to have things really structured and predictable, because that doesn't feel good to have it not predictable. And again, kind of going back to children need their parents to survive. So in a sense, you're trying to survive still, even though you're not in that environment anymore, but you're still behaving and thinking like I'm in survival mode. I need to keep myself safe. I need to be there for my family. I need to keep to my routine, and then everything will be okay. And going on a trip just pulls all that from under the rug. But the good thing is that this is something that we can work on. This is something that can get better. There are other things you can do. And next week I'll bring with you things to our session just about certain thoughts and distortions or certain things we tell ourselves that are untrue or distorted, and that kind of promote our anxiety and make it worse. And so there are some things that you can do cognitively that will help kind of get through those difficult moments. But I really want to spend some time, at least the next, I don't like to put a timeline on how long therapy should go on for, but are you comfortable working with me as long as you need to, or did you have a specific timeline that you wanted to be done with sessions by?
I think I'm pretty flexible.
Okay. well, I don't want to scare you. This can go on for like 15 years. But for the next, won't put a timeline on it, but for the next couple months, let's just kind of use this space and time as time where you get to come and take care of yourself and to really be selfish. I know it might feel weird for you to say that, but I think it's time for you to take back some of the control in your life and do things that are good for you, not regardless of your mom, your dad, your siblings, your fiance, and just focus on you. And so I want this to be a space and time where you feel safe and where you feel comfortable working through these things with me. But I think that there's definitely a lot to go forth from here. And will this time and space work for you next week too? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can always do Tuesday nights at 6 will be your time. Okay. All right, well, thank you so much for coming in today, and I will see you next week. All right, thank you. There you go. And that was a 45-minute session. Some people do 45 minutes and then chart for 15, so it's fine. So, this is fun. I like the speaker. Gosh, that was kind of hard. Wow.